Welcome everybody.
Recording in progress.
We're joined by Nashville SC head coach Gary Smith. Coach, congratulations on today's victory. Your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, very, very challenging. Watched San Antonio in the build up to this. The the product on the field was nothing short of the very intense and competitive group that I expected. Uh, the mixed group that we had, trying to get the balance of guys that are looking to cut their teeth and make an impression. As an example, Ethan Zubak, now that we've obviously lost CJ, it was a big opportunity for Ethan to make a bit of a claim for minutes towards the first team. I thought the balance was about right, but some of those guys just found it a little bit difficult to get to the pace of the game early on, maybe because that was a lack of playing time for some of them. But all in all, um, a good win, here, and we get the opportunity to go into the draw tomorrow and see where that takes us.
Coach, we saw some new faces at the back line, including the keeper as well. Any specific player impressed that you saw might challenge for those starting jobs going forward this season?
Lawrence and Josh have not seen an awful lot of football. We saw a bit of a cameo performance from Josh against LAFC. Both of those guys are very, very genuine individuals. I do think they need a little bit more time at this level to adapt and to put themselves in a competitive position. I thought the pick of maybe the defensive group, if we're going outside of some of the usual faces, I thought Jack and Daniel did a very, very good job. But I thought Elliot played very, very well. A couple of saves that he needed to make, his aerial uh, dominance, if you like, whether it was coming to catch or punch, took a lot of pressure off of that back line, given the sort of delivery and physical presence that San Antonio had. And it's been a little while since Elliot's been in the group. So, he himself will have needed some time and some minutes to get to the pace of it. But I thought he did a very good job in that back line.
Uh, Gary, you mentioned about Ethan and his opportunity. What did you see on him today, specifically, that you really liked in terms of him claiming that spot that you were talking about?
We've seen Ethan before, of course, and so has everyone else. And he's been around the group for a good while. Ethan has an awful lot of genuine qualities. He's a very, very hardworking lad, very honest individual. Physically, he gives us some nice presence, and he's athletically in a really good place. And Ethan's challenge right now is to do exactly what he's done tonight, is to find more moments, more opportunities, and be cleaner in front of goal. A lot of the build-up play, a lot of his, mid-third play, hold-up play, is very decent. Yes, of course, it can be cleaned up like a lot of forwards, but I think it's that in and around the penalty area, finding those moments, sensing a goal scoring situation. And tonight's goal will give him a real big boost. There's no doubt about it. And we're all looking for that person. Somebody who's going to make a bit of a difference, somebody who's in a confident mood, someone who can see a moment that nobody else is and make a difference in a game. Because tonight it's been a winning goal.
We are going to transition to those on the Zoom. Ben, team, going that order, please.
Yeah, Gary, we've talked a good bit about strikers, obviously, with CJ. It felt like Teal kind of completely changed the game. He came on. Really good presence in the box and held the ball up well. What did you make of his performance? And just, I guess, how do you assess that position now? Great.
I thought he made a massive difference to your point, Ben. His experience, his physical presence, he uses his body well. I think everyone can understand that I was sparing the minutes with Teal for obvious reasons. Having lost CJ now, there physically some gaps in that front line. And Teal obviously fills that immediately well. We've already spoken about Ethan, that presents something different. But I do think we have the ability with the type of attackers that we've got. You've seen tonight we played in a 3-4-3. I think Jacob did a wonderful job. Fafa was terrific when he came on. Instrumental in the goal, of course. And with Randall coming back as well, and not to mention Hanny, of course, there is the ability to be a little bit more creative with that front line. Of course, CJ will be a big loss as a person and a player. But I do think that there are individuals that, given the opportunity, can maybe stake a bit of a claim for that front line position.
Tim, go ahead.
You talked a little bit about Teal in the stories, but with Teal and other guys like Shaq, had you hoped out who they played over the weekend and like to play stuff? You hoped to keep them completely out of the lineup, and were got forced into it by the game state, or something that was.
No, make no mistake. I wanted to win the game. If it had gone according to plan, we'd have been 2 or 3 goals in front, and I wouldn't have used them for sure. I felt as though there was a necessity to add a little bit of extra sparkle or intensity to that front line, and the 2 guys we've spoken about, Fafa and Teal, did exactly that. As far as Shaq's concerned, he's had a lot of football. He's been away with the national team. I know he didn't play, but being away and travelling, of course, is a little bit of an extra drain for him personally. But I just thought we needed that in the last 10 or 15 minutes just to see the game out and to get us over the line. I do want to make a bit of a comment on Joey Desart coming into the group. Joey's done ever so well down at Huntsville, and I know we haven't touched on that anywhere in this conversation yet, but I think that starts to see a bit of a pipeline coming from Huntsville. That group down there, of course, in their infancy, but Joey's somebody who's already had MLS exposure at Orlando, and he's been a very good presence down there and deserved his minutes tonight. And if the circumstances had been better, maybe they got a little bit longer, but unfortunately, that wasn't to be.
Before we go on to another question here in the room, we're going to also transition and use this opportunity to ask you about the game versus Atlanta, since we won't have match day -2 tomorrow. Your thoughts on how you're preparing and transitioning the team now towards that game?
Well, it's a short week, of course, in terms of preparation given tonight's game. I'm sure they'll be feeling exactly the same. We have a couple of days to get ourselves together. Given tonight's exploits, by that I mean the likes of Jack and Daniel who shared the game, and Alex having 45 minutes and Jacob only playing an hour. I think the balance of minutes for those guys now having got over a very difficult hurdle leaves them in a good position, and me in a good position to get or pick a competitive but reasonably fresh team. In many ways, in terms of workload, those guys will not have done any more than they would normally have done in any given week. So, in terms of my mindset and of course our prep for Atlanta, the next 2 days are going to be instrumental.
Gary, the fact that that Atlanta just lost their game against Memphis and the Cup, besides the fact that they're a great team, one of the best in the league, anyways, does that open any type of opportunity in terms of psychologically, in terms of what they might bring? Because of it's not easy for a big team to just go ahead lose a game in 120 minutes.
Of course. I've just said to the guys in there, I've always felt the cup competitions are something that you should be going out and enjoying, those one-off games. If you can get yourself in a good run, and tonight starts that in the cup, it can create some real confidence and buoyancy around the group, because we've had a lot of guys tonight that have not seen the field a lot. We've spoken about that. And now they're part of the group. They've been part of the winning game tonight. And it galvanises the team. So for all of the teams that have gone through, there'll be a nice upbeat feeling about their work tomorrow and towards the weekend. When you look at, and I've looked at the team obviously quickly that played tonight for Atlanta, I'm sure they'll look at that and say, it doesn't reflect really in any way, shape or form the group that will come out and play us at the weekend. So I'm sure that they'll push this to one side and they'll move forward and try and reinforce some very good league form.
Ernesto, go ahead.
Buenas noches. En el juego de hoy y en el juego de la semana pasada, vimos que no había conexión entre medio campo y delantera. ¿Cómo corregir o qué podría hacer para corregirlo para el próximo juego contra Atlanta?
Tonight and in the past game, we saw that there was a lack of connection between the midfield and the attack. How are you looking to correct that?
Well, that's your opinion, first of all. I would say that if you're looking at tonight's game, then you're looking at a group of guys that have rarely stepped foot on the field together as a group. And I would contrast that and maybe correct that comment with saying that the first 45 minutes against LAFC was possibly the best football that we played here in the start of or the first 9 games of the season. So I'm not sure that connection is the right word. Creation, clear-cut creation, and execution when we get there has been a bit of a problem for the group. But I don't think connection, energy, enthusiasm, and positivity has in any way, shape, or form been an issue.
Gary, you have a personal connection with the city of Atlanta, of course, and then these two clubs have a lot of shared memories. What are your thoughts on this rivalry so far, and then where do you see it going?
It's been a terrific one. I have to say that first and foremost. I mean, we've had some wonderful games against them. They obviously put us in our place. First game of our very first season, in front of 60,000 people, and I think a lot of the players and the staff have remembered that. And in the games that we've played them subsequently, they've been very, very competitive. We've had some really good games at their place, and there's been some very, very challenging games here. And the one I remember mostly was actually the Open Cup game, where I think it was in extra time, in overtime, that strangely enough, Ethan scored the winning goal.
Yep.
Some very, very tight affairs. They're a hugely talented team. There's a lot of respect for what they are able to put on the field. This year in particular, with probably a more healthy and fresher group, you're seeing, I think, some fabulous football. So it'll be hugely challenging. Will it be any different to last weekend and the challenge we ran into with LAFC? I suspect not. Atlanta have game-changing players. Rumbo and Almeida have been fantastic. So we'll look forward to it. We'll be ready for it. We'll turn around in a confident mood, and we'll look forward to doing our very utmost to try and get all 3 points of the weekend.
Hey, Coach. Walker Zimmerman, you said in the presser after the game last Saturday that he left the game early due to some groin tightness. How is that process going to this point?
But I also said I hoped I got him off the field at the right time. And I've been informed at halftime that his groin was tightened up. And it can sometimes happen as the guys cool down in that break. I do believe I got him off at the right time. Walker's reaction to the last couple of days has been very good. I don't think there's any lasting damage there or any serious damage. And he's certainly progressing in the right way towards the weekend. I think the next 2 days are going to be very important. We've had 3 days of what we would class as rehabilitation and maybe some treatment and some light activity. there's been no reaction to that. So tomorrow and Friday will be very important to the team and to Walker as to how he prepares for the weekend.
I have two questions, Tim and then Ben. Tim, go ahead.
Gary, you touched on Thiago Almada. What have you seen out of him so far this year? And really, how exciting will it be to guys having an outstanding start to the season on the field, potentially with Hani, who's obviously the reigning MVP?
It's amazing, right? Last weekend, Bowenga is, favourite for MVP this week. Almeida's favourite for MVP. Everyone's got an MVP. I think he's a hugely talented player. I'm just stating the obvious. I think the most difficult thing when I watch him play and I watch Atlanta play is that he pops up in so many creative pockets. There's no stereotypical, this is what he's going to do, this is how he's going to do it. And I think all the best players are like that. If you think back to last weekend and Bowenga, where he scores from, where he picks the ball up from, it really is a trademark of the best players. And of course, we have one in our group, as you've mentioned. I think he'll be inspired, as he was last week, to perform and to keep his good run going. There's no better stage than against the likes of LAFC and Atlanta. You've got to put those teams in the same category and bracket. They're top sides with some tremendous talent. And this young man is certainly, as you say, making a push at this stage of the season to be, in that shake-up for MVP.
Final question, Ben.
Yeah, Gary, and like obviously with Robinson, one of the best center backs probably has similar importance to them as a guy Walker does to you. I'm curious what you've seen of him since he's come back, and just from a perspective, just how important it is to have a player.
Yeah, and his injury, from what I gather, was a very serious one, and it's those Achilles injuries can sometimes be very, very difficult to recover from. But he's a young man. He's a very athletic and healthy young man. He looks to me like he's come back, in similar form to how he left, which is, testimony probably to the player and to the medical staff at their club. I do think that the balance of players in those central defensive positions are vital. And what Miles gives that team is a fantastic athleticism. He is a good defender, but he's also a pristine athlete. And he's obviously proven at the very top level that with the ball at his feet, he's also very, very capable. But he has a guy alongside him. He's a very different guy. He's a little bit more of what you would class as an old school centre back, who I think is very decent in the air, also capable on the floor. But I think the partnership is a very, very good one. And that has underpinned a really decent start to the season for them.